coming up on WUFT Midday. Pope Francis has died on Easter Monday. The profound legacy he leaves behind as the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church.
Plus, Secretary of State Pete Hegseth shares more military plans on the messaging app Signal, but this time with his family.
And students are heading back to class at FSU after experiencing last week's tragic shooting on campus. We'll bring you the recent updates on the horrific event that affected students across the nation.
You're watching WUFT Midday.
Bells rang in St. Peter's Square in the Vatican City today, marking a somber occasion. Thousands are gathering to mourn the death of Pope Francis. Just one day earlier, the Pope delivered the traditional blessing in the same location to thousands who gathered on Easter Sunday. This is WFT Midday. I'm Krystal Felix.
And I'm Madison Ginsberg. The 88-year-old pontiff has battled health troubles for months. Now the intricate process of selecting a new pope called the conclave is set to begin. As Alice Barr reports, world leaders are sharing their condolences through social media.
Del nostro Santo Padre Francesco.
The news from the Vatican of Pope Francis's passing stunning the Catholic world this Easter Monday.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
One day after he greeted supporters from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to celebrate Easter services. Those cheers now giving way to an outpouring of grief and condolences from leaders around the world. The White House and President Trump writing, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis." Vice President Jada Vance, who met with the Pope just yesterday, posting that his heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him, saying he was happy to see him, though he was obviously very ill, adding, "May God rest his soul." The brief Easter meeting during the Vice President's foreign travel comes after Pope Francis sharply criticized the Trump administration's mass deportation policies that he said would violate the dignity of migrants, whose care became a key focal point of his papacy, along with advocating for the poor, the marginalized, the environment, and for peace, including in Ukraine and Gaza. His movement toward a more inclusive church at times rattled traditionalists and inspired progressives, including many young Catholics.
Pope Francis represents to me, an evolving church, a church that is not stuck in time.
The Pope's legacy and humility earning praise today from leaders in the Middle East to across Europe. Italy's Prime Minister calling Pope Francis a friend whose advice and teachings never failed, even in moments of trial and suffering. This is now such a moment for the millions of Catholics and beyond, now mourning the loss of the people's Pope. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
After last week's mass shooting on the Florida State campus, classes resumed today. As students continue their education on campus, fears still linger among the FSU community. FSU students are being given the option to go to class in person or to attend remotely. The school is also waiving mandatory attendance for the students. The Leon County Sheriff's Office is investigating a motive for Thursday's shooting. Investigators say 20-year-old FSU student Felix killed 2 people and injured 6 others. The university's presidents say they are continuing to look after the safety of the students.
Our hearts go out to our students and the victims of this terrible tragedy.
Detectives say Eichner used his stepmom's service weapon to carry out part of the shooting. She's a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. An LCSO spokesperson said Friday Deputy Jessica Eichner requested personal leave from her job as a school resource officer for an indefinite period. The FSU community came together for a vigil commemorating the lives of the 2 victims whose lives were lost in the shooting on campus last Thursday. School officials said the event was a time of support to grieve, reflect, and be with one another in the wake of a tragedy. As classes resume today, students say they will walk back onto the campus they once knew that has now been altered by devastation.
The Trump administration and the courts continue to battle over deportations occurring across the country. Early Saturday, the Supreme Court ordered the administration not to deport a group of Venezuelan migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Alice Barr filed this report earlier with details on the remaining questions of migrants' due process rights.
And we're getting them out
President Trump's immigration policy again colliding with the courts after the Supreme Court paused the deportations of another group of Venezuelan migrants and alleged gang members. Lawyers representing the men say they're being denied hearings to argue their case, something the High Court previously ruled was required to deport under the Wartime Alien Enemies Act, which the administration wants to resume using, asking the justices to lift their hold.
I'm not arguing right here that nobody should get due process. I'm just saying there's a different process under Alien Enemies Act.
Two conservative justices dissented with the court's pause, calling it unprecedented and legally questionable. President Trump again slamming the federal courts for derailing his immigration actions to stop what he called a sinister attack on our nation. Critics like Senator Chris Van Hollen, who visited, mistakenly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador, whose release the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate, accusing the president of focusing on gang allegations over due process.
If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody.
Meanwhile, the administration facing new controversy over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sharing sensitive information ahead of U.S. military operations in Yemen last month in another Signal group chat, including his wife, his brother, and personal lawyer. They both hold Pentagon jobs. That's all according to two sources with knowledge of the matter. It was first reported by the New York Times. The White House saying there was no wrongdoing and no classified information shared. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Weeks ago, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was accused of using the messaging app Signal to disclose military plans and accidentally shared them with a journalist. Now, as Amy Kiley reports, he's being accused of doing this for a second time, but this time it was to share military plans with family members.
It's truly shocking.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under fire once again for allegedly discussing military plans on a non-government messaging app. Three sources confirm a group chat on Signal earlier this year included his brother, personal attorney, and spouse. The two men work for the Defense Department, but Hegseth's wife does not. Sources say he used his personal phone for the discussion ahead of strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. Signal is an encrypted app, but experts say military planning usually takes place in the Situation Room with as few people as possible.
It's putting the operation, those fighter pilots who are in the air about to conduct this operation, at risk with people that don't need to know this information.
The DoD Acting Inspector General is investigating another Signal group chat earlier this year. That also involved the Yemen strikes. A journalist says he was accidentally invited to it along with cabinet members.
No matter what they will spin at this Pentagon, this stuff is classified, no doubt about it.
Experts say allies could be less likely to share intelligence with the U.S. if they're worried about security. They say another concern is espionage.
These types of Signal chats, even if they happen in the United States, in the D.C. area, you can bet that the Russians and the Chinese are working very hard to intercept them.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
It was a mild and pleasant morning with temperatures in the 60s, but the UF weather team is expecting those temperatures to soar this week. UF forecaster William Maxham is live in the weather studio. William, it's mostly heat and no rain in the forecast this week.
Yeah, those rain chances are going to remain really low through the rest of the work week. Temperatures way above average. We're already close to average highs at 79 degrees. Underneath some hazy sunshine, that cloud cover is going to filter out some of the sun, but not the intense heat. Just in the last minute, we've seen the temperature go up to 80 degrees. Highs should be all the way up into the upper 80s, basically at 90 degrees. Ocala 88, Palatka 89. This afternoon in Gainesville, winds are going to be turning to the east to the south, and this evening we'll keep clouds around. Temperatures will fall into the mid-60s overnight tonight. Looking ahead for the next few days, the heat actually going to increase over the next few days, but there will be some showers creeping into our forecast over the weekend. We'll discuss it coming up.
It may feel like hurricane season just ended, but it's almost time to begin preparing again. WUFT's Jada Ross tells us how you can stay safe and be prepared when hurricane season rolls around.
Hurricanes are not rare in the Sunshine State. Still, Florida residents sometimes find themselves scrambling to buy supplies before it's too late. Alachua County Public Works wants you to start evaluating and preparing now. Civil Works engineer Lalit Lawani is in charge of clearing roads, fallen trees, and power lines in flooding issues. His tips for you are:
know where your breaker boxes to show the circuits, and flood-proof your house if you need to.
According to Statista, between 1851 and 2022, 120 hurricanes hit Florida, the highest number out of all 50 states. 37 were a Category 3 or higher. Turning to the city of Gainesville, Mayor Harvey Ward says the city has a reserve to use if necessary due to a natural disaster.
Hurricanes happen, storms happen, so we are prepared for those things.
Locally owned City Electric Supply store manager Terry Free says some people are already getting the memo.
We've sold out of them. We've sold out of our portables. We will be bringing in more material.
Free says the store will have more in stock next month when hurricane season officially begins.
That was Jada Ross reporting. It's never too soon to prepare for a natural disaster. Great items to stock up on are canned goods, batteries, and sandbags.
Gainesville residents are coming together to keep the community clean. Keeping Alachua County Beautiful hosted its 34th annual Great American Cleanup at Macy Park Saturday morning. Tools and bags were provided for attendees to pick up trash around Gainesville. From 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., participants left no corner of the county untouched. KACB Executive Director Carlos Gonzalez says this cleanup is just one way people can take care of the planet.
People are really focusing on beautifying the city together, creating that kind of harmony, that kind of fellowship, rather than working separately in teams throughout the years.
After returning from assigned areas, participants brought back trash they found to KACB staff. Trash found around the county included things like tires, cans, and food wrappers. Along with Saturday's event, the nonprofit provides programs and resources to end littering and keeping Alachua County beautiful.
Residents gathered in Gainesville this weekend to celebrate Earth Day with art, music, and fun. The interactive market stretched through Grove Street, connecting local vendors, families, and sustainability advocates. Attendees painted rocks, shaped clay, and swapped plants with local artists and makers. Music from live DJs set the vibe, while food trucks filled the streets with flavor. One of the organizers said he hoped this event would have something exciting for everyone.
Anywhere you go, there's going to be something fun for you to do, whether that's working on some art. You can paint rocks that you can utilize around town. Studio TM is here throwing clay so that folks can paint things and they'll fire them later on. There's just something fun around every corner.
Organizers hope to keep bringing people together through more interactive markets planned for the future.
After yesterday's Easter festivities, it's time to get back to work. Let's take a look at our DOT camera along US 1998 to check out how your commute is looking. Unlike the clouds, traffic remains clear along the highway, so you have no worries on your way to work this afternoon. Now let's get on over to UF meteorologist William Maxham to find out what we should expect for this week's forecast.
Yeah, when you wake up in the mornings this week, temperatures already pretty comfortable. You're really not going to need a jacket. It was in the 60s early this morning, 65. That low temperature in Gainesville, barely jacket. Weather winds are light out of the south today, and that south wind going to be around 20 miles an hour. South is where the warm air lives, and we'll be getting that flow, bringing in warm temperatures through the rest of the week. Last week we were talking about critical relative humidity values into the 30% and below range. Not quite as dry this week. Relative humidity is currently into the 50s in the hottest part of the day. We'll see that humidity going down into the 30s, but not quite as dry as last week. But still, that's going to be drying out some fuels, and we'll be getting drier and drier through the rest of the week as no rain is coming. Temperatures going to be into the upper 80s today. There is that haze, but these kinds of clouds aren't producing any kind of rain. They're just filtering out maybe a small percentage of the sun's energy. Still, it is much warmer than average, 82 degrees currently in Krystal River. 82. Cedar Key will make it again to around 90 today. There'll be clouds, no rain expected today, tomorrow, and really all week. There's very little changing. The pattern is going to keep the energy well to our north. We have a couple of fronts, but they're really not going to be able to penetrate very far south. So all that energy stays north, and we'll see scattered showers and storms across Georgia and Alabama this week, but the peninsula staying dry, just clouds from time to time, and a very summer-like level of heat. We'll be into the low 90s, closing out the work week and headed into the weekend. That's when things start to change, our pattern breaking up a little bit. Showers creeping into the forecast at the very end of the weekend, at only a 20% chance for Sunday. This really is the driest time of the year for us here in north central Florida. This is a very typical dry pattern for late parts of April and headed into early May. The humidity creeps up a little bit. It's starting to feel muggy, but we just don't have quite enough moisture in the air to spark up those afternoon thunderstorms just yet, although that's going to be changing. The weather pattern getting a little bit more into that summer storm pattern into next week, but the next 7 days looking very dry. Temperatures much above average, almost 10 degrees above average each afternoon. Lots of pool days ahead, but not much in the way of rainfall is coming. Only a 20% chance of a spotty shower on Sunday. And again, rain chances next week going to start cranking up, but for right now, looking dry, very warm.
Right now, millions of women in the U.S. are going through perimenopause. Officials are saying this vital time in women's life lacks the necessary research and education to also understand what comes after it. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither explains perimenopause and the symptoms you should be aware of.
It's a natural part of aging, but a 2022 survey shows many women are going through menopause or perimenopause without knowledge or appropriate medical care. More than 90% of women in the study reported they'd never been taught about menopause in school, and more than 60% said they didn't feel informed about it at all.
I think it's really exciting, though, that for women, we are addressing and putting out there in the forefront hormonal changes that occur in the later part of reproductive life.
OBGYN Dr. Sujatha Reddy says menopause is when the ovaries stop functioning and there hasn't been a menstrual period for 12 months. Perimenopause is the time leading up to this.
What most women will experience are changes in these hormone levels leading to abnormal or irregular periods.
Reddy says other common signs include hot flashes, vaginal and sexual changes, as well as altered mood and sleep. Most women will begin the menopause transition between ages 45 and 55, but it can happen earlier or later. The average menopausal age in the U.S. is 52. The process typically lasts several years, but everybody is different.
There is no exact test. There is no exact diagnosis. We tend to treat the symptoms that women are experiencing in this time.
If symptoms are disrupting your life, Reddy says to see a doctor and to be aware of companies selling an instant fix.
There is no magic wand that is going to cure every symptom you have.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
To help treat and relieve symptoms. That includes hormone manipulations through hormonal intrauterine device, birth control pills, and other medications that might be considered based on a person's symptoms.
A new policy is temporarily suspending DHL business-to-consumer shipments to the U.S. that is worth more than $800. The Department of Homeland Security says the move was due to a significant increase in red tape at customs. This increase follows the introduction of President Trump's tariffs. Previously, packages worth up to $2,500 could enter the U.S. with minimal paperwork. Now the threshold has been lowered due to more stringent customs checks. DHL said the new policy would start on Monday. Now let's take a look at what's coming up tonight on First at 5 on Channel 5. Taking a look at the anticipated record high UV levels we'll see this week, the impacts this can have on your skin, plus ways to stay safe. We're bringing you the latest of the TB McPherson Park Easter shooting, the suspects Gainesville's police officers have in custody, and it's National Red Cross Volunteer Week, how leaders are honoring their volunteers.
Before we go, William, one last check on the weather.
Yeah, it looks great. If you're going to be able to get to the pool this week, temperatures will be very much above average, almost 10 degrees. Above will be into the low 90s. No rain is expected through the work week. However, a few showers are creeping back into the forecast over the weekend, 20% chance Sunday. And next week, I think we'll start to see some of those daily thunderstorms back in the forecast, but overall dry and very warm ahead, and certainly some nice weather to get to the pool.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back here tomorrow for another edition.
We'll see you here later today for First at 5 on Channel 5. Have a great afternoon.